In its quest to provide an open forum for discussion of controversial issues, this station allows hosts and their guests to express themselves without any significant censorship. You're advised that any views expressed by the hosts or their guests are not necessarily the views of Tuggy Entertainment or its partners.
It's time for How to Raise a Millionaire Radio with Ann Morgan James and Jack James. A lively interview and calling show with Ann and Jack, the mother and son team on a mission. They're here to empower kids to dream big and go after those dreams with gusto. They want to fill the world with kid entrepreneurs. Are your kids ready for success? It's How to Raise a Millionaire Radio on the Rockstar Radio Network. And now, here are your hosts, Ann Morgan James and Jack James.
Welcome to the show. It's Ann Morgan James with my co-host,
Jack James.
And we are thrilled to be here with you today. It is a gorgeous, almost summer day here in San Jose.
No, it's kind of summer day.
Well, it is a kind of a summer day. And you know what? As soon as we're off the air, we're going to be in the pool. That's for dang sure. Well, Jack's not going to be. He has to do it. We have to do his route, but that's okay. We'll do his route and everything.
And I will not be with my dad.
Yep, and then he's heading off to be with his dad, but I'll be in the pool.
I will not
I will be in the pool.
I hope you freeze.
Oh, thanks a bunch. Thanks a bunch.
You're welcome.
So
I love you.
I love you too. We just drove in from Castle, California, our house up in the mountains, and it was just a gorgeous week up there. This was the last week of school, right? So you know that we ended school last week and took off for the mountains, and were there for literally 1 week. We went to Lassen National Forest, which I think, wouldn't you say is like the best kept secret? I mean, that is just the nicest national park.
Yeah, it is.
It's really, really beautiful. We went on about a 4-mile hike up to a place called Craig's Lake. It's right above, it's the runoff from the adjacent mountain to Lassen, and it's just this craggly face, which is
just smooth.
Yeah, it actually looks like somebody. It almost looks like a gigantic snow or sand castle that fell in, right? Exactly. Don't you think? I mean, it just kind of looks like it slid down.
Yeah, and the end of the top's all crinkled up.
Yeah, the top's all craggly at the top, and then that's where the runoff from the snow comes down and kind of collects in this pool area. It makes a little bit of a lake. It's different sizes every year because, of course, the snowpack is a different size every year. But it wasn't too little, but it wasn't too big either. It was kind of like a little pond at this point.
It's kind of a little It looks really out of place.
Yeah, it does look out of place, but it's very pretty. It's this kind of green, emerald green color, and
emerald green. Water in the middle of rocks.
Yeah,
rocks as far as the eye can see.
Yeah, it's just really very pretty. You just come over the top of this knoll and just drop down into that little bitty crag, and it's just really neat. So we did that, and then no, we did not swim in it. It was kind of cold. It is snow runoff after all. And then where did we go? The next day we came back. We went back.
And we did kayaking. Yeah,
we went kayaking on Manzanita Lake, and that is just a gem of a little lake that's right there at Lassen. You know, I think one of the things that's really cool about Lassen is you pay $10 for your car to get into the gate, and that $10 pass is good for 7 days. So you can literally go back in and out privileges for 7 days, which I think is fantastic. I'm telling you.
And if you're gonna be having your vacation for 7 days, you might as well just get it.
Yeah.
Immediately the day you go, and then you won't have to $10 for a
7 days of fun. Where can you have that?
How much would that be?
It's a lot of dough someplace else. We had a lot of fun though. It's the rangers are. You know, like any national forest, they're just so outgoing and friendly and knowledgeable. They had all kinds of great ideas for us to do. And this year, they're focusing on a lot on the celestial part of the park, because I think they've come to realize that they have some of the most beautiful setting to do stargazing. And they had a huge thing with the solar eclipse. And then they also did a really
Venus
Venus Transit Party. And then later on this summer, August 10th through the 13th, they're doing a special Night with the Stars program where it's at the dark of the moon, so you have more of a chance to see the stars. And of course, the Milky Way is up there. It's just beautiful. But we had a great time, and just a lot of fun, just hanging out and having fun.
And you know what's best?
There's no light pollution. There's no light pollution. You need to speak up when you say it's up. So
sorry.
There's
no light pollution.
Yeah, there
like
you go. We also had a domino challenge while we were in Castle. And
Kicked your butt.
I got my butt kicked by a 13-year-old. He just I think I won like maybe 2 hands.
No,
and three hands, and one of them he had a 2.
No, one of them I had a double nothing, and then a double 1.
Yeah, so I got like 2 points off of him. It was just disgusting. It was really bad, but it was fun. We had a gas. We love playing dominoes. It's just fun, fun day. And I want to say one more thing before we jump to our guest. We did today what we always do when we go for a drive. We do not play electronic games in the car. We don't talk on our cell phones unless unless I have a meeting or some odd thing like that. But for the most part, Jack and I do what?
Listen to books on tape.
Yeah, we listen to books on tape. And this trip, we listened to 2 fabulous books. One was called...
one was called Steel Trap, the Challenge.
Steel Trap, the Challenge. It's a book about a 13-year-old boy who is a kind of a genius guy. And
yeah, he's a genius. He created electronics.
Yeah, so he's in a science challenge. It's all about the stuff that he goes through. And the other one we just finished listening to today was called Call It Courage. Call to Courage.
No, Call It.
Call It Courage. And it was an amazing book written in the 40s about the Polynesian Islands and sort of a coming of age again of a young boy. So, when you're going out this summer, being with your kids, don't turn on the videotape. Be with your kids. Have fun, right, Jack?
Right.
I mean, we stop the tape, we giggle and laugh, we talk about what's coming up, we talk about what we think might happen. We laugh about things. We especially...
I always say, where's the dog? Where's the dog?
Like today we're like, where's the dog? Where's the dog? Because the boy had a dog with him, and in the story he comes into some peril a couple of times, and we're freaking out because we're wondering if the dog's getting hurt. And it's just a wonderful way to be together.
Because when he was on the canoe, they didn't mention what was his name?
I don't remember the dog's name. I forget. It's only been an hour.
The kid.
Nikita?
No, the kid.
Oh.
No, the kids. They didn't mention the kid's dog for a long time. Then they finally mentioned him.
Yeah, and I was like, sigh of relief. You just want to make sure the dog's alive. And, this summer while you're going out, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Where do we get our books on tape?
It does cost.
Where do we go?
We go to our local library.
Yep, we go to the local public
your local library right now, and you can get a 10% off of how big your bill is after you obviously will just, forget to turn it in.
Yeah, we kind of forget to turn them in sometimes, so we do have a little bit of that, but that's our own fault. But the point is that they're free, and they're great, and they have them on CDs.
Mostly free.
Yeah, they are free. If you remember to turn them in, they're free.
Exactly.
So it's awesome. It's just awesome. Anyway, we want to get into our guest here before we hit the break so we can get her queued up so you understand who she is. And then we can do some amazing discussions today about kids, self-esteem, and amazing things that you can do with your child. So today I am anyway, absolutely honored to have with us Renu Dillon. Miss Renu has been, she's believed to have been born a genius, or believes that everybody is born a genius, and as educators and parents that we have the responsibility to awaken the inner genius in our kids. It's truly our job, and she embraces that wholeheartedly. She has the most unique instructional methods and stimulating curriculum with a high-energy paced classroom filled with laughter and fun and dance and learning that goes on as a result in the amazing personalities that emerge with her students. She is certainly one of my inspirations and heroes. When I was writing my book, I researched people that I thought I would want to include their materials in my book, and she is one of the people whose material I included in my book graciously with her permission. She's been described as a woman of many talents. She is well known to people here in the local San Francisco Bay Area, and she's an amazing community activist. She has been in the United States since 1986. And she has her BS in pharmacy and a doctorate in science and natural sciences. She was born and raised in Kenya, South Africa, which, of course, we love because that is one of the places we cannot wait to go. It is absolutely on the list. To Giraffe Manor in Kenya. And she had completed her education in England. She has just an amazing background, and we want to welcome Miss Renu to the show. Welcome to the show, Miss Renu.
Hello, hi, and thank you very much. It was a very nice, warm welcome. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm getting goosebumps here because seriously, you are.
Mosquito bites.
And Jack has his mosquito bites. He's itching his mosquito bites, and I'm itching my goosebumps. But I just think the program you have is absolutely fantastic, and I would love for you to just kind of give us a real quick background. How did you start Genius Kids?
Well, how did I start Genius Kids? You know, I have no idea how I started Genius Kids. It was actually an idea that came when I came here. I moved from actually Kenya in East Africa. I moved here about 27 years ago. I was actually a pharmacist and planned to continue with my pharmacy. And just couldn't, I was married to someone that was developing a franchise at the time. And when I moved here, I realized I had to go back to school and restart and my degree all over again. And I said, this is not something I want to do. So I joined in the franchise business. And then, cut a long story short, I went through a divorce after a short time and had babies and had to start my life all over again. One of the struggles I found.
Hang on, Renu. We're going to come back. I'm sorry I have to cut you short. We'll come back and we have a lot in common. I'll tell you what, ladies. We'll be back with Miss Renu. Don't miss it.
This is How to Raise a Millionaire Radio, giving our kids the tools and encouragements they need to help build a future they can bank on, no matter what the economy throws their way. And we'll be back with more with Ann and Jack right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Hi, it's Ann Morgan James, author of How to Raise a Millionaire. As many of you know, Jack and I are about to launch our books, and we wanted to do something special for those of you who supported us and have purchased our pre-order sets of books. So we've decided to get a set, give a set. That's right, if you get one of our sets of books for $20, we will give a set to a military family. We have partnered with an awesome group called Operation Gratitude. For those of you who purchase our pre-order set of books, Operation Gratitude will send a set of our books to a military family. Operation Gratitude is a group that packages care packages for soldiers overseas. Our pre-order sets are available at howtoraiseamillionaire.com. So thanks for supporting Jack and me. And we hope to hear you on the radio. Bye!
Get ready for Smart Health with your host, Dr. Glenn Mia. Friday afternoons at 2 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network. Smart Health is a 1-hour program dedicated to discussions, interviews, and news in the ever-changing world of medicine. Information leads to smart choices, and smart choices lead to a healthier lifestyle. That's the quote of host and broadcast journalist Dr. Glenn Mia, M.D. This magazine-style radio show is a fast-paced program bringing together medical experts, authors, and patients to examine what works and what doesn't in staying healthy. Dr. Glenn Mia is a board-certified physician in pediatrics and internal medicine. His philosophy to wellness starts with an investment. He says proper nutrition, rest, and exercise are the best personal investments to maintaining good health. So join us for Smart Health with Dr. Glenn Mia, Fridays at 2 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network. Welcome back to How to Raise a Millionaire Radio, giving you usable and real-life everyday tips to help you raise a kid with a millionaire mind. Now, let's get back to the show on the Rockstar Radio Network. It's How to Raise a Millionaire Radio. And here again are your hosts, Ann Morgan James and Jack James.
Welcome back to How to Raise a Millionaire Radio here on the Rockstar Radio Network. Just a little housekeeping before we get back to Miss Renu, and that is that you can find us at howtoraiseamillionaire.com. That's howtoraiseamillionaire.com, or you can become a fan of us on Facebook. Just search for How to Raise a Millionaire. And, we have a call-in show. If you have any questions or comments, lines are open today, and the toll-free number is 1-866-404-6519. So I want to get back to our guest, Miss Renu. I stepped on her toes. My gosh, my hero's toes. I stepped on them. You were just about telling us that your husband was starting up some franchises, and you ended up in a divorce, which I can relate to that. So
okay, so the first husband, he was in the franchise business of a food business, and I didn't continue with my pharmacy career, and I joined him with that, and only to find out that after opening over 180 Subway shops, he disappeared on me and left me with two little wonderful babies. And I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I had to restart my career, and I had to start everything all over again. And when I went out to look for a job and I wanted to put the children in daycare, I found that every place I would go to I was not really finding the right kind of daycare/preschool I wanted my kids to be. Either they were all very play schools, like just lots of to play all day, and there was actually no focus on learning, or it was just too much of academics and no fun at all. And I said, this is not what I'm looking for my kids. I wanted a really well-balanced program. So I decided to stay home, and that's when I did my doctorate, and I decided I would just work with my kids independently and do something on my own. And that's how I really came across the curriculum Genius Kids. I started working with my children. I had my older daughter reading very quickly within a period of 2 months, and the younger one also started, and I thought, I think I have something here. And started putting together curriculum, and next thing I knew, I was babysitting my other friends' kids, and in between going to court and going through a divorce and paying attorney fees. And I said, one day when I have enough money, I think I'm going to open an educational program. And then years went by, and just one thing after another. And about 12 years ago, I was in corporate, and I just got fed up one day, and I said, I think it's time for me to open a school. And I opened a very small center just to really teach science, being a scientist, because I thought another thing is that in America, kids start to learn science much later on. And in England, where I did my schooling, I started science right from kindergarten. So I incorporated a science camp, which started with one child, grew to 2, and then from there, the next thing I knew, I started a preschool, and then I started a pre-K. And here we are 12 years later, and today, actually, we opened our 7th school. So I'm coming from just opening our 7th center. And so it's been quite a journey, but a really exciting journey, because the best part of it is the whole concept of Genius Kids came across the dining table. It was just me coming out of a corporate office one day telling my second husband, I'm fed up. I can't deal with this. I really need to do something on my own. And my daughters were sitting on the table. And we said, let's try a school. And even the name and the logo, everything started from this little dining table. And we've grown now 12 years later.
Oh, it's so inspiring. And it's, I love the fact that your girls were involved, that you were, breathing this entrepreneurial life into them. And it's so exciting. Now, what I focused on in my book that I found was so engaging in the program that you have is your thoughts on self-esteem. Can you talk just a minute about that?
Yeah. And I have incorporated self-esteem right from the program. We started infants now, infants and toddlers. Because when I look back at my history and I look at how I managed to handle and tackle my divorce through one of the most difficult times of my life, I have to thank my parents because they started me in a public speaking classes when I was only, I think, 3 or 4 years old, drama and public speaking. I grew up in a very small town, Mombasa, Kenya, where there wasn't really too many extracurricular activities we could do. Not like you have today. You know, you have karate and you have all these chess clubs and everything else. I grew up in a really small town. And there was a small theater, a British theater, and they ran public speaking and drama classes. And my mom enrolled me there. And she enrolled me in drama and she enrolled me in ballet. Well, I had 2 long legs to do ballet, so I quit that and got into public speaking. And I realize now, when I look back in my life, especially during my most difficult times, how important that was because it helped me stand up for who I was today. It helped me fight for my children. It helped me fight for my rights. And I said to myself, you know what? More important than academics, I mean, yeah, it's great. You have all this math and science and whatever, but with all of that, if I didn't have the public speaking and the self-esteem and confidence that I gained through all these programs and through the involvement of my parents, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I decided, you know what, I need to incorporate that with very young kids and start early. Why do we wait till adults to take public speaking classes and join Toastmasters? So I've incorporated public speaking, self-esteem, and confidence building as part of my daily ritual in school.
I think that is just, you know, honest to goodness, I don't mean to be too, like, over the top, but it really is genius because this is the piece that parents don't get. We, you know, one of the statistics that I found when I was writing my book was that by the time a child gets into kindergarten, they have heard the word don't over 40,000 times.
Absolutely, yeah.
They've heard don't, can't, stop. You know, it's always that as parents, we're constantly vigilantly looking for the things that we want them not to do as opposed to just embracing the things that they need to do. And, you know, Jack spoke about, 6 months ago?
Yeah.
At a conference in Los Angeles.
101.
At Author 101, it's a writing conference. And he spoke in front of about 60 adults. And, you know, he was 12 years old. And I know a lot of people would probably think I was crazy to encourage him to do that. But, you know, it gave him a confidence in himself, in his, you know, kind of to be able to work through that fear. I think one of the things that we as parents do is we so don't want our kids to feel any kind of pain or any kind of angst that we don't let them feel things like fear and things that can paralyze you and then work through it. Because what we do is we stop and we help them.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. We kind of over-pamper them sometimes and protect them.
Yes,
And I absolutely agree. And I mean, even this morning we opened our school, and you know, I don't know how much time I've spent telling parents that, you know, your child is going to cry that very first day, but you need to, when you've entrusted somebody with your child, you've entrusted me, you've chosen my program, now just leave them with me and go. But we have parents standing there in the lobby and telling a 3-year-old, you know, pointing to them, behave yourself, don't do this, don't do that. And I don't know how many times I heard the word don't before the child even entered the school, and this was the first day in school, instead of just saying, go have fun. So we have this child entering the classroom, and they're all stressed out because I can't, you know, make sure you eat your snack. Don't do this. Don't go potty in your diaper. Don't be rude to the teacher. Don't. And then suddenly they're here, they start crying, and then you have the parents standing there going, why are you crying? Well, guess what? You've just given a lecture to a 3-year-old. And I'm saying, leave them alone, you know, let them be. And then the other thing is, you know, another thing we do as parents is we compare our kids. You know, we just keep comparing them. Well, you know, my older one did this, why can't my younger one do this? So you grow up, most of your life just hearing comparisons with cousins, uncles, aunts. You try and live up to what your dad is, your mom is. And you don't realize that we never allow ourselves to just be me. And sometimes being me has got a lot of exciting things, you know. And I look back at my own journey, and, you know, you won't believe it, Anne. I grew up with a very academic background. Father was a brilliant doctor, so of course studies was the most important thing. And I still remember when I think it was about 9 or 10, I wanted to be a dancer in a club. I saw this Indian movie, and I said, oh, I want to be like her. And I still remember my dad there looking at me saying, how can you even say you want to be a dancer? And, now I find out I had the knack of, I went into sciences and became a pharmacist. And did I enjoy pharmacy? No. Did I ever want to be a pharmacist? Not really. But why did I do pharmacy? I did it really because my father was a doctor, my uncle was a dentist, and I felt I had to keep up with the family tradition of being in medicine. If you really ask me what I wanted to be, I think now I wanted to just be creating things. I love to paint. I draw all the animals in my school. I draw life-size murals, and I've never taken a single art class in my life because art was never a subject that was considered a subject. It was. And I look back and I think, my God, I wonder if I'd had that chance, what I could have done with my hands and my creativity. So
yeah.
I always, my program is all about, parents come to me and say, oh, are you going to teach my child to do algebra at the age of 3? Is that why you're a genius kid? And I said, no, you've already given me a genius. Every child is born a genius. We're all born with this astounding organ called the brain. Now let that brain develop at its own pace and let it find out what it can do. Instead of telling the brain what to do, let it discover and explore, and that's exactly what our program is going to do. And the only difference what we do, with, probably compared to other preschools, is every single child, every day in the class, has a microphone in their hand, and they speak on the mic all day long. All day long, they hear their voice echo on the mic, and in that way, they develop their speaking skills and their confidence.
Oh, it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. We're gonna go to a break, and I'm gonna leave for the break with one of your quotes that I put in my book. Instilling self-confidence in a child will impact their entire life. Self-confident people will have better relationships with family, friends, and work associates. They will be able to set attainable goals and make better decisions in their personal and professional life. And if that didn't give you goosebumps, then you're just not alive. We are here with Renew Dillon. We will be back after this break. If you'd like to call in the show, our number is 1-866-404-6519. We will be back in a minute. You are here on the Rockstar Radio Network listening to How to Raise a Millionaire Radio. We'll be right back. Thanks.
This is How to Raise a Millionaire Radio, giving our kids the tools and encouragements they need to help build a future they can bank on, no matter what the economy throws their way. And we'll be back with more with Ann and Jack right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Hi, it's Ann Morgan James with How to Raise a Millionaire. The loss of a loved one is never easy. Mary Frances lost her husband of 27 years suddenly at age 50. Mary found herself a widow. To cope with her loss and despair, Mary reached out to other widows. She interviewed them, exploring and searching their experiences to help herself grieve and heal. She chronicled the widows' stories, including her own, in an amazing book called The Sisterhood of Widows. If you know a widow who is grieving, I urge you to get her Mary's inspiring book. I gave it to my dear friend Sherry, who lost her husband suddenly, leaving her with 2 young girls and a long path of grieving and healing ahead of her. My hope was she would find Mary's book a comfort. I was pleased but hardly surprised when Mary's book really touched Sherry. You can find Mary's book and a plentiful host of resources for widows at Mary's website, sisterhoodofwidows.com.
What's ideal for you? Really, what's ideal for you? Being who you are, doing what you love, and getting out and about with friends. What's ideal for you? With your host, Janice Christopher, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central here on the Rockstar Radio Network. And it all starts with Janice doing just that. Then being open, curious, authentic, and living her life on a quest to discover everything that could possibly make life ideal. check out the website, whatsidealforyou.com. Studies have shown that 80% of Americans, and probably everyone else too, dislike their work. 80%. The mission then is to turn that passion statistic around, to show how it is possible to live your passions and make a living, or live your passions so that you'll be able to mush through your job until you can change it and watch life's magic begin to happen. It's What's Ideal for You with your host Janice Christopher, Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network. Welcome back to How to Raise a Millionaire Radio, giving you usable and real-life everyday tips to help you raise a kid with a millionaire mind. Now, let's get back to the show on the Rockstar Radio Network. It's How to Raise a Millionaire Radio. And here again are your hosts, Ann Morgan James and Jack James.
Welcome back to How to Raise a Millionaire Radio here on the Rockstar Radio Network. Don't forget you can find us on Facebook at just search on How to Raise a Millionaire, and you can find us at howtoraiseamillionaire.com. We have a blog, and we do some fun video stuff, all kinds of crazy stuff. And we have a lot of resources for parents in the areas of not just parenting, but in general. So head to our resource page and take a look at some of the things that we have out there. We are visiting here today with Renu Dillon. She is an amazing woman with an amazing program that she started about 12 years ago, and helping parents raise genius kids. So Renu, when I was writing my book, I found a blog posting that you did that I thought was unbelievably succinct in really 6 little areas that you had suggested people look at helping their kids. And one of them is teaching kids to think for themselves. Can you give us a little bit of an idea on that, or talk with us a little bit about how to help our kids think for themselves?
Absolutely. I think that, especially the critical years are 0 to age 5. And if you look at any development of the brain and the left and right brain and the multiple senses, those are the most critical ages of development, where we also develop our personality and ability to think and create. And once you get to school, you're always being told, the sky is blue, the trees are green. So I believe before the age of 6, why not just let the child figure out for themselves? So when I ask children, I don't ask them what color the sky is. I will ask a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, what color would you like the sky to be? And I will have them create what they would have created, a version of a sky or a tree or an apple. And in this way, you start thinking for yourself instead of thinking or trying to think what other people are telling you. And on this thought, all our public speaking classes, everything we do in the class is based on what do you think. So most of my questions are never, I'm going to tell you. Most of my questions are, what do you think, or what would you have done, or why would you have done this? And never let me tell you how this is done. And I feel just structuring a question or posing the right thing to a child will actually, you will be able to tweak that interest in them. So even a 5-year-old, instead of saying, why don't you draw a picture of your day at the beach? Instead, I would say, you visited the beach. Now, why don't you tell me, if you had to create a beach and you had to create the sand and the ocean, how would you have done it? Now, suddenly, the child is actually thinking for themselves what they would have created. Let them paint the ocean purple. What's wrong with having a purple ocean? It's perfectly okay. Who says the ocean has to be blue? And that's the philosophy I use when I work with children. And I try and do that even when they get older in school in terms of developing creative writing. And in our public speaking courses that we do, starting from very young kids all the way through to teenagers, everything we do from character development to personality development is posed on always asking them, what would you have done? And not, how do you think this should, it should be, and what are your thoughts on this? It's always, what do you think you would have done had you had to do this?
Right, you're letting them have that creative ability. I mean, this is one of the, one of the things that's hard with parents, I think, when I'm working with parents and they want to know how do their kids pick a business to have, one of the first things I have them do is start doing some just creative brainstorming exercises with their kids. And
yes,
I'm
absolutely.
always
and art is one of the best things you can do, because you just flow from within. I mean, there's no such thing as perfect art.
Exactly.
Art can be anything. You can throw all kinds of colors on a piece of paper on canvas, and that could be a beautiful piece of art.
Yeah, look at Andy Warhol.
Yes.
Look at Picasso.
So I feel that, there's another quote that I always live by, that a child is like a piece of paper. Anyone that passes by will leave an impression. So you really need to make sure that any impression you leave on a child has to be a positive, long-lasting impression, because that one negative comment or one negative criticism can completely ruin a child. My own daughter, as an example, she used to love science. She had one teacher, I think it was in 5th grade, who just told her one day, you just can't do this. And she's never pursued sciences, and she's hated it. She's absolutely hated sciences. And she's very good at it. I know she's good at it. But she had this one teacher, and all the teacher did was criticize her because she couldn't understand one particular concept. I'm not sure it was magnets or electricity. And after that, she just never wanted to do science. She kept saying, I'm not good at this, because somebody had told her she was not good at it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'll tell you, the thoughtlessness, and I'm not saying that teachers have an easy job. They certainly don't. But the thoughtlessness sometimes with which they just blurt out, things. I remember Jack was telling me about his teacher who was teaching life skills, and they were setting goals, and one of the boys said, he wanted to live on the moon. And instead of saying, hey, you know what? That's not out of the realm of possibility. What would you need to do that? Well, you'd have to become an astronaut. Well, what does that mean? You have to be a scientist. You could literally live on the moon. I mean, 60 years ago, we couldn't walk on the moon. So it amazes me that people, say things like that's not a good idea.
That was Braden, and he was there. No, that was a friend of mine.
Yes,
that was a friend of mine, and he was and he said that, and she said my goal was a little unrealistic too.
Yeah, she is like, Jack's goal is to cure cancer, so she told him it was unrealistic, and I told him
she said set your expectations a little lower, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like, hello.
Yeah.
It just amazes me. I said, if somebody else ever says that to you, just look at them and go, yeah, fine, and walk away. It's just amazing.
Right. I mean, I think that sometimes both parents and teachers, I think teachers have a very difficult job because they're so busy trying to, finish this whole curriculum in a certain period of time that they don't allow kids to just think for themselves and spend time actually letting them discover things. And as parents, we tend to sometimes overburden our kids because we keep thinking that, we sometimes want our kids to do things that we couldn't achieve. And we start pushing them in the direction that we could not do, or maybe we want to do and we've not been able to do. And we start trying to live our own dreams through our kids, which I think is wrong. And I really feel that that's one thing that, with both my girls, what I've done is that, and with all due respect, my parents did a great job, and I'm thankful for all the education they gave me, because I don't think I would be where I am today. But I really feel that if I go back, I should have had a lot more choices in my career. So I told both my girls, when they were, making choices in their careers, all I said to them is, whatever you pick, make sure you can definitely support yourself and your family, because, sometimes you can pick something wacko and then just not make anything out of it. But I've let both of them explore their possibilities, and actually both of them are joining the business. My older one now, she's 25, she actually runs my business. She's more of an entrepreneur than I am. I actually report to her now. And when I look back, I think it's all back to, for me, I have raised a millionaire there because I have given her all the tools. And the most important tool I've given her is confidence. She has no fear. She can make a mistake, and it's okay. She has no problem making a mistake because she knows it's part of her learning process of becoming an entrepreneur. And I'm hoping that the second one, who's now 21, also will go down that path. And I encourage parents, and I tell parents that the power of speech, the power of words, and even what you're doing today, Anne, you're speaking and you're sharing your thoughts. And I think that itself is such valuable information for parents and kids to listen to others and be inspired by others. That itself is a learning tool. And, I just feel that it's so important for us to just let our children be kids, let them discover, let them make mistakes, let them falter. And, sure, every now and then you want to hold them, make sure they don't fall too deep. But you need to let them discover themselves, because that is the true millionaire that's going to find out what they want to do. And if you love what you do, you'll make money at it.
Yep, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I often say, I'm not saying things to impress you. I tell you these things to impress upon you that what I did with my son, anyone can do with their kids. It's just, a shift in the way that we think about how we want to bring them up. Now, one of the things that I thought was so brilliant in the blog that I reprinted in my book was this notion of how important practical knowledge is for kids. And I love, you're like me. I mean, I was born and raised in Oakland, so, Fremont isn't too far off from Oakland, but you were talking about street smarts versus book smarts. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Again, street smarts, hands-on experience is so important. And especially today, to survive, it's so competitive. And you can be this superb academically brilliant student and get straight A's and everything. But if you're unable to communicate, unable to converse, unable to go out and experience life the way it is, then how are you going to survive today? It's just not at least what the world was when I was growing up 27, 30 years ago. It's completely different. Kids have to be street smart. There's so many kinds of people out there. Nowadays with iPhones and internet, children have so much more access to things that we didn't have. So I tell parents, again, you have to talk to your kids. You have to teach them, let them experience things. It's not just about the academics. It's about life experiences. So, everything you do doesn't have to be about winning. It has to be about experiencing things. So, get them out there, Don't just put them in a karate class because you want them to get black belts. Don't put them into chess because then you want them to be the champion at your local county. Put them in different things to experience, to meet people. The more people you meet, the more you know. The more you know, the more you learn how to deal with people. And I think dealing with people in real life today is the most important skill, and for kids, adults, for all of us. Communication, able to express ourselves, able to understand and evaluate other people and decide whether they should be our friends or not. You can't learn this in a book.
No, you can't. That's why I am absolutely a huge advocate of people helping their kids start a business that's in their neighborhood as opposed to online. I mean, I think, selling T-shirts online or building apps or doing all those things, those are fabulous things to do. And I would never say don't have your kids do that. But I say to do that in addition to having a business in your neighborhood so that the kids have to walk around, meet their neighbors, say hello. We're going to be back in about 15 seconds. We are talking here with Renu Dillon. Renu has an amazing business that she started called Genius Kids. She started it here in San Francisco Bay Area, and she now has 7 centers that teach, the school that shapes tomorrow's citizen. Join us when we come back from the break with Renu. We'll have some more about how to get Genius Kids. See ya.
This is How to Raise a Millionaire Radio, giving our kids the tools and encouragements they need to help build a future they can bank on, no matter what the economy throws their way. And we'll be back with more with Ann and Jack right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network. The IRS can and will track your income. Can you? It's time to bulletproof your taxes. Yes, bulletproof your taxes with host Nellie Williams. Fridays at 1 Eastern on the Rockstar Radio Network. As a business owner, you know that tax deductions can lower your tax liability. But deciding which expenses are deductible and how to claim them can be confusing, frustrating, and ultimately costly when you're wrong. Former IRS audit supervisor Nellie Williams will help you learn what is deductible and when to take that deduction to avoid raising IRS red flags. She'll teach you how to survive an IRS audit so you don't have to pay more tax, interest, or penalties. Each week, Nellie will be here to teach us as entrepreneurs and small business owners how to pay our fair share and not a penny more. Check out her website, bulletproofyourtaxes.com. Then join us for Bulletproof Your Taxes with host Nellie Williams, Fridays at 1 Eastern on the Rockstar Radio Network. What's ideal for you? Really, what's ideal for you? Being who you are, doing what you love, and getting out and about with friends. What's ideal for you? With your host, Janice Christopher, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central here on the Rockstar Radio Network. And it all starts with Janice doing just that. Then being open, curious, authentic, and living her life on a quest to discover everything that could possibly make life ideal. check out the website, whatsidealforyou.com. Studies have shown that 80% of Americans, and probably everyone else too, dislike their work. 80%. The mission then is to turn that passion statistic around, to show how it is possible to live your passions and make a living, or live your passions so that you'll be able to mush through your job until you can change it and watch life's magic begin to happen. It's What's Ideal for You with your host Janice Christopher, Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network. Welcome back to How to Raise a Millionaire Radio, giving you usable and real-life everyday tips to help you raise a kid with a millionaire mind. Now, let's get back to the show on the Rockstar Radio Network. It's How to Raise a Millionaire Radio. And here again are your hosts, Ann Morgan James and Jack James.
Hey, it's Ann Morgan James with Jack James. We're delighted to have our guest, Renew Dillon, here on the Rockstar Radio Network on our How to Raise a Millionaire show. We are talking about how to raise genius kids. Now, Renew, one of the things that I thought was such a fabulous, insight, just a tiny thing that I think parents forget to do, and that was that you said to share as many stories as possible. Talk to us about what that does for our kids.
I think just sharing your experiences. Who is the first person that a kid looks up at is mom and dad. Who are the first educators in any child's life are the parents. So I think sharing and talking to your children about the stories and even the mistakes you've made in life. I think there's nothing wrong with telling your children some of the mistakes you made in your life, because they need to realize that, we're not perfect. And it's okay for them to be imperfect as well. So I've always been very straight with my children, sometimes I know a lot of conservative parents feel, well, no, if I tell them that, I didn't do this, or I didn't get an A in math, or I wasn't successful in my first marriage, then they may do the mistakes. In actual fact, the children will learn from your mistakes. They will actually learn from your experiences. And also stories, just fun stories about what you've done in school, your friends. I think these are just such wonderful moments. And nowadays, with the iPhone and all these electronic toys, I call these autistic toys, because I find that a lot of these toys, we're creating autism within ourselves because we're just looking at this machine and we don't want to interact with human beings anymore. I love human interaction. I love talking to people in person. I don't want to be talking on the telephone necessarily. I don't want to be talking through email. I want to talk in person, and I want to feel your energy, and I want to hear your voice, and I want to hear what you have to say to me. And I think that is the most positive experience you can give your child. Even if you're sharing something that may not be that positive, just hearing it from you, the warmth of your voice, and telling them that it's okay and that you've done the same thing, it makes a world of difference for child's self-esteem. Because, again, as parents, we want our children to be perfect. But you know what? We need to remind them every day that we are not perfect and we're not perfect, and they can be perfect. We can try, but it's okay if you're not.
I think you're absolutely right. And, one of the things that I do all the time with Jack is tell him, what it was like when I was a kid, and, when I was teased. I have red hair. Jack has red hair. I remember my brother, when my nephew was 6 years old and in kindergarten, he had my nephew call me just before school started, because he didn't want to go to school because the kids were teasing him because he had red hair. And he said, well, your Auntie Ann has... Yeah, Auntie Ann has red hair. Talk to her, And so, it was just, it's just such a bonding thing. And I think parents don't realize how critical that is with our kids.
Yes, yeah.
These are the moments.
I grew up, I'm very tall, and I'm very tall for an Indian. I'm 5'10" and a half, just short of 5'11". And most Indian women are not this tall. And I was always very skinny and lanky growing up in school. And my parents were very strict, so I didn't have, I wore thick glasses, and it just never went through that cute stage, and it was a difficult time when I was a teenager, and, then my daughter was the same, she went through the stage where she was very tall and lanky, and people would make fun of her and keep saying, why are you so tall, what's wrong with you? And, instead of, I've always sat down and told her, it's okay, and I've showed her my pictures. I showed her the pictures, and I said, look, even ugly ducklings can grow into beautiful swans. And I've said to her, we all go through those phases. And she used to look at me and say, Mom, everybody says that to me, but I want to look like you. I had to pull out my pictures, and I never wanted to show those pictures to anybody.
Yeah.
But, you know, nobody, those are things you don't even put on Facebook. But, you know, it's okay. And I tell parents, you know, acne, you know, when your kids have acne, don't turn to them and say, oh, my God, why do you have this? Acne is genetic. It obviously came from somewhere. You sit down and say, you know, I had the same thing, and this is what I did, and this is how I coped with it, instead of saying, oh, my God, what's happened to you? Let me go get you all the Clearasil I can buy from Walgreens. No, it's not going to work. You need to sit down and make them feel that it's okay. It's part of growing up. You're maturing. It's okay. And guess what? I had the same thing, and look at me, and I didn't pick my face, and I don't have any marks, and if you do the same thing, you'll end up looking just like me. But we have to learn to share experiences about our boyfriends and what we do and girlfriends and everything. And, you know, and when I grew up, it was taboo in the house. The word boyfriend and girlfriend was not allowed. It was just not a done thing. And I wish it had been, because these were things that I would wait to talk to my friends secretly. I have been very open with my daughters, and I'm really glad, because there's no secrets and no hidden agendas. I've made one very simple rule in the house. Whatever you guys do, good or bad, I need to know first. And I think that is so important, the communication. So that's why I say sharing experiences and stories. We have to share. And we have to share with others and our friends. And I feel that even as business entrepreneurs, we should share our ideas and thoughts and not fear competition. I don't fear competition. You know, I don't fear anyone coming and opening a school next to me. That's great. That means there's more business. You know, but I feel that we should all be able to share and be positive with one another and help one another. And I really feel that that's what lacks overall in the society today is, you know, the healthy competition.
Absolutely. You know, I look at it this way. I have many cookbooks in my kitchen. I do not have only one cookbook that I use. I use recipes from every single cookbook. And when they're good recipes, I write little notes in them. And when they're stinky recipes, I write notes in my books and say, don't make this ever again. Yuck.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's a combination of things that make life and, you know, more palatable and more rich. And it's and that leads me to another thing I think that we as parents don't let our kids do, and that is fail. You have this tenet that says if you don't succeed, try again. And it is so important. Try again. It is so important.
Try, and keep trying. You know, keep trying. Never give up. And I do that even in my lessons. I teach through smartboard, multimedia, and all my little buttons on my screen, even if a little kid comes and presses a button and it's the wrong answer, it never says you're wrong. We never use the word you're wrong. We say, oops, try again. And I feel that there's nothing wrong with trying. I wasn't successful with I opened my first school, and I have, you know, over the 12 years, I have had more failures than I've had successes. But I'm perfectly okay, because actually from my failures, I've actually learned what works and what doesn't work. And today, after 12 years, I can say, you know what, I shouldn't have done this, and I should have done this, and I shouldn't have done this. But like you said, in the recipes, you get the bad recipe and the good recipe, and then you get a little bit from the bad and a little bit from the good, and you make an excellent recipe. And that's what I feel we need to do. There's nothing wrong with failing, and I don't even think the word fail should exist, because, well, what is failing? If you don't try, then how can you fail? I feel if you don't try, you have failed.
Exactly.
So for me, there's no such thing. There shouldn't be a first place, and there shouldn't be 100%. You know, one of the things I don't like about our education system is this whole GATE program. You know, GATE has become so stressful for kids. We're identifying who's gifted. So what does it mean that if your child is 99% and up, they're truly gifted? What about the one who's 98? Or what about the one who's 88? And that's one of the things I run into in my school. I'll have parents dragging their kids in and saying, look what they did. And the report card will be 92%. And I'll be like, what's wrong with that? They did fantastic, but they didn't make GATE. GATE was 99%. Who decided? You know, I'm trying to sit here and say, why did we decide on a GATE program? Everybody is gifted. We all have the right to be gifted. We all have the right to have education. Why do we need to start segregating people and saying, well, you're really smart and you're not that smart? And that's what happens, and that's why many kids don't even go to college, because they've already been told that they're not smart enough to go to college.
Yep, they get pigeonholed. I just read an article I just read a woman who posted wanting information about, you know, labeling of kids. You know, if you're ADD or ADHD or you're high functioning, autistic or what have you. You know, she wanted to talk to parents about that kind of labeling, and that it just bothers me because there's this preconceived notion, and one of the things that happened with Jack recently was he went to a camp with Boy Scout camp, and they were, he's running around being crazy and having fun, and the scout leader that was there said something like, Where are those pills your mother usually gives you? I'm like,
oh my gosh,
what kind of a thing is that to say to a kid?
Yeah.
First of all, how does it make the kids who really do have to take medication feel? You can't be fun and crazy and just have a great time. You have to be these little automatrons that sit correctly in your chair and not talk and not interact.
And it's funny you say that, Ann. I spent most of my time growing up in timeout. Although I was extremely smart in academics, I could never sit still for 2 minutes. And I don't know how many, I grew up in England, so I don't know how many times I got caned in the headmaster's office for my misbehavior. And, now I got trained in working with children with special needs. And about 3 years ago when I sat in the class and I was, doing a class on working with children with ADD, I said to myself, my God, this sounds like me when I read all these, symptoms. And I went up to the instructor and she immediately said, she goes, you're probably wondering if you have ADD. And I said, yeah. She goes, yeah, you have ADD. And she said, you must have really struggled in school. And I said, no, I never struggled in school. I struggled to sit. I couldn't sit and listen to a boring teacher for 20 minutes. But no, I said, I never struggled. And you won't believe it. I found out I have severe ADD. I have dyslexia. Very bad dyslexia. I have survived. I have got I've got a doctorate. I've got my degree. There was no such thing as identifying me as labeling me in school, although I got into trouble a lot. But I look back and I think, I'm perfectly okay. And I can't imagine being labeled. If somebody had said to me, you have ADD, there's something wrong with you, you shouldn't be in class. Kids with ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, autism, they're really smart. These are not kids you want to mess with. They're really smart, and that's why we can't sit still, because we need to be learning something new every 2 minutes.
Yep. Okay, so, I'm gonna interrupt you. Hang on 1 second. We're just about over here. I want to make sure that people know how to get a hold of you. If they want to get a hold of you, they have Miss Renew and her wonderful programs. You can go to Genius Kids Online. That's GENIUS for those of you who don't know how to spell genius. Genius Kids Online, or also Miss Renew Online is also another website. If those are the two places they can get a hold of you, correct?
Yes, absolutely. GeniusKidsOnline.com and MissRenu.online.com, or just MissRenu.com, and Renu is RENNU.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for being our guest. It was wonderful. We'll see you next week. We have another fabulous guest coming on, and have a great week, everybody.
Thank you for being a part of How to Raise a Millionaire Radio with Ann Morgan James and Jack James. Join us every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network.